I laughed when he said he wanted to be respected. I never expected him to react like this. It's Friday evening, and I'm standing in our sunlit living room, surrounded by the chatter of friends as the golden hour washes everything in a warm glow. I'm carefully arranging appetizers on the coffee table for our monthly get-together, while simultaneously watching the front door, waiting for Nate to arrive. He texted that he'd be late, again, and I can't help but roll my eyes as I place the last olive on the platter. "Where's Nate?" asks Olivia, my best friend since college, as she sips her white wine. "Running late," I say, reaching for my own glass. "He had some work thing that apparently couldn't wait. You know how he is." I take a generous sip and feel the pleasant buzz of alcohol spreading through my body. I think, why can't he just prioritize our plans for once? Everyone else managed to get here on time. The doorbell rings and I set down my glass with more force than necessary. When I open the door, Nate is standing there in his usual button-down shirt and slacks, looking tired but smiling. "Hey, Melissa," he says, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "Sorry I'm late. The presentation took longer than expected." I step back, avoiding his kiss. "Everyone's already here," I say, my voice sharper than I intend. "You've missed the first hour." His smile falters. "I know, I'm sorry. The client had a lot of questions, and I couldn't just walk out." I shake my head and turn back toward the living room, where our friends are watching our interaction with awkward expressions. I think, great, now I look like the nagging wife. Nate follows me, greeting everyone with a warm smile despite my cold reception. I notice how genuinely happy they all seem to see him. Olivia's husband, Jake, immediately pulls Nate into conversation about some hiking trail they're planning to explore. "Hey, can I help with anything?" Nate asks me, touching my elbow lightly. "It's all done," I say, pulling away. "I managed everything myself as usual." I see a brief flash of hurt in his eyes, but he nods and moves to join the others. I think, maybe that was too harsh, but he needs to understand how annoying this is. An hour later, I'm sitting on the arm of the sofa, glass number 3, or is it 4, in my hand. The conversation has shifted to work achievements, and Daniel, our neighbor, is talking about his recent promotion. "That's amazing," Nate says, raising his glass to Daniel. "You've been working toward that for years." "What about you, Nate?" asks Rachel, Daniel's wife. "Any exciting developments at your firm?" Nate shifts in his seat, looking uncomfortable. "Actually, I've been thinking about making a change. I want to transition to the environmental law division." I let out a sharp laugh before I can stop myself. Everyone turns to look at me. "Environmental law?" I say, the wine making my tongue loose. "Nate, you can barely remember to sort the recycling. And isn't that division like the least prestigious in your firm?" The room grows uncomfortably quiet. "It's something I care about," Nate says softly. "I've been researching it for months." "Well, good luck with that," I say, rolling my eyes. Nate's always chasing these random passions that go nowhere. Remember the photography phase? We still have $2,000 worth of equipment collecting dust in the spare room. A few people offer awkward smiles, but no one laughs. "I'm serious about this," Nate says, his voice steady but quiet. "I want to do work that matters to me, work that commands respect." I laugh again, louder this time. "Respect? Nate, you're the guy who apologizes when someone steps on your foot. How do you expect to be respected when you can't even stand up for yourself?" The words hang in the air, and I immediately know I've crossed a line. Nate's face doesn't change expression, but something shifts in his eyes. A light going out. He sets his glass down on the coffee table and stands up. "Excuse me," he says to the room, not looking at me. "I need some air." I watch as he walks out onto our balcony, closing the door behind him. The conversation resumes, but it's stilted and uncomfortable. "Melissa," Olivia whispers, leaning close. "That was a bit much, don't you think?" I feel defensive heat rise in my cheeks. "What? I was just joking, he knows that." But looking at Nate's rigid back as he stares out at the city skyline, I'm not so sure. I think, maybe I should go apologize, but pride keeps me rooted to my spot. He'll get over it. He always does. The party winds down early, our friends making excuses to leave. As the last couple heads out, Jake gives me a pointed look. "You might want to check on your husband," he says quietly. I close the door behind them and lean against it, suddenly feeling the full weight of the alcohol in my system. Nate is still on the balcony, now sitting in one of the chairs with his phone in his hand. I walk out and drop into the chair beside him. "Everyone left," I say. He nods without looking up. "Are you gonna sulk all night?" I ask, irritation creeping back into my voice. Nate finally looks at me, and the expression on his face makes my stomach drop. It's not anger, it's not even hurt, it's just nothing. "I'm not sulking," he says evenly. "I'm thinking." "About what?" "How your wife is such a terrible person for making a joke," he shakes his head. "About when things changed between us. When you stopped seeing me as someone worthy of your respect." I roll my eyes. "Don't be so dramatic, it was just a stupid comment." "It wasn't just tonight, Melissa. It's been happening for years. I just never called you on it because..." He trails off, looking back at the city lights. "Because what?" "Because I thought if I loved you enough, if I was patient enough, you'd eventually see me. Really see me." Something cold and uncomfortable settles in my chest. "I see you just fine." He stands up, pocketing his phone. "No, you don't. You see the version of me you created in your head. Someone weak, someone to be tolerated rather than valued." I stand too, swaying slightly. "That's not true, isn't it?" His voice is still calm, which somehow makes it worse. "When was the last time you asked me about my day and actually listened to the answer? When was the last time you defended me instead of tearing me down in front of our friends?" I open my mouth to respond, but find I have no answer. "I'm going to stay at Marcus's tonight," he says, moving toward the balcony door. Panic flares in my chest. "You're leaving? Over one stupid comment?" He stops, hand on the door handle. "No, Melissa, not over one comment. Over a pattern that's been happening for years." He turns to look at me. "I meant what I said in there. I want to be respected. By my colleagues, by my friends, and especially by my wife. And I've finally realized that's never going to happen here." With that, he walks inside. I follow him, watching in disbelief as he grabs an overnight bag from the closet and begins packing some clothes. "Nate, come on. You're overreacting," I say, crossing my arms. He continues packing silently. "I think this can't be happening. He never stands up to me like this." "Fine," I snap. "Go sleep at Marcus's. We'll talk when you're being reasonable again." He zips up the bag and finally looks at me. I am being reasonable. For the first time in a long time, I'm thinking clearly about what I need. "And what's that?" "Space," he says simply. "Time to figure out if this marriage is still what I want." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You don't mean that." He picks up his bag. "I do. I'll call you tomorrow." And then he's gone, the front door closing with a quiet click that somehow sounds more final than a slam would have. I stand in the middle of our living room, surrounded by the remnants of the party, empty glasses, half-eaten food, the lingering scent of wine and perfume. I think, he'll be back tomorrow. He always comes back. But as I move to clear the coffee table, I notice Nate's wedding ring sitting beside his abandoned wine glass, and a cold thread of fear winds through me. It's Monday morning, and I'm sitting at my desk in the open plan office of the marketing agency where I work. 3 days have passed since Nate walked out, and despite my multiple texts and one tearful voicemail, he's responded only to say he needs more time. My coworker, Zara, rolls her chair over to my desk. "You look like hell," she says bluntly. "What's going on?" I rub my temples, trying to ward off the headache that's been my constant companion since Friday night. "Nate and I had a fight. He's staying with a friend." Zara raises an eyebrow. "What happened?" I sigh, opening my email inbox to avoid her gaze. "I made a comment about him wanting respect, and he took it personally." "What kind of comment?" I glance at her, feeling defensive. "Just a joke about how he's too nice to be respected. It wasn't a big deal." Zara's expression is skeptical. "Must have been if he left." "He's overreacting," I say, clicking aggressively through unread messages. "He'll get over it." But even as I say the words, I don't quite believe them. I think, what if he doesn't come back? What if that's really it? The thought sends a wave of panic through me. Despite my complaints and criticism, I've never actually imagined my life without Nate in it. "Have you apologized?" Zara asks. "Why should I? It was just a joke." She shrugs. Sometimes what seems like a joke to us hits a nerve for someone else, especially if it touches on something they're insecure about. I think about Nate's face when I laughed at his desire for respect. The quiet dignity in his voice when he said he wanted to do work that matters. Maybe, I concede reluctantly. At lunch, I decide to try again. I walk to the small park across from our office building and find a bench in the sunshine. I pull out my phone and dial Nate's number, half expecting it to go to voicemail as it has for the past 3 days. To my surprise, he answers. "Melissa," he says, his voice neutral. "Hi," I say, suddenly unsure what to say now that I have him on the line. "How are you?" "I'm okay," he says. "You?" "Not great," I admit. "I miss you." There's a pause, and I think I hear him sigh. "I miss you too." Hope flares in my chest. "Then come home." "It's not that simple." "Why not? We had a fight. Couples fight all the time." "This isn't about the fight," he says, and I can hear the frustration creeping into his voice. "It's about the pattern. It's about how you see me, or don't see me." I think, why is he making this so difficult? Can we at least meet to talk? In person? Another pause. "Okay," he finally says. "There's a cafe near Marcus's place, Bluebird Coffee on Elm Street. Can you meet me there tomorrow after work?" "Yes," I say quickly, relief washing over me. "Yes, I'll be there." After we hang up, I sit on the bench for a few more minutes, watching people stroll through the park on their lunch breaks. Couples holding hands, friends laughing together, a man playing fetch with his dog. Normal, everyday scenes that I suddenly fear might not be part of my future. For the first time, I allow myself to consider that Nate might be serious about reconsidering our marriage. The thought makes my stomach clench. I think I need to fix this. I need to say whatever it takes to get him to come home. Tuesday afternoon, I'm sitting at a small table in Bluebird Coffee, nervously checking my watch. I arrived 15 minutes early, unable to focus on work all day. The cafe is cozy and quiet, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. I've ordered a cappuccino that I'm too anxious to drink. I look up as the door opens, and there's Nate. My heart skips at the sight of him. He looks different somehow. He's wearing jeans and a casual button-down I haven't seen before, and his hair is styled differently. He looks good, rested. The observation sends an uncomfortable jolt through me. He spots me and walks over, sliding into the chair across from me. "Hi," he says. "Hi," I reply, studying his face. "You look different." He runs a hand through his hair self-consciously. "Marcus convinced me to try a new barber. I think he never changes his hair when I suggest it. It looks nice. Thanks." He glances at my untouched coffee. "How are you?" "I'm a mess," I say honestly. "I haven't been sleeping. I can't focus at work. I just want you to come home." His expression softens slightly. "I'm sorry you're struggling. Then come back. Whatever I did wrong, I'm sorry. I won't do it again." Nate sighs, leaning back in his chair. "What are you sorry for exactly?" I blink, caught off guard. For what I said at the party, about you wanting respect." "And what was wrong with what you said?" I feel a flicker of irritation. "Why are you making me spell it out?" I'm trying to apologize. "Because I need to know if you understand why it hurt me, or if you're just saying what you think I want to hear." I take a deep breath, forcing myself to consider his question. "I embarrassed you in front of our friends," I say slowly. "I dismissed something that was important to you." He nods. "Yes, and it wasn't the first time." I look down at my cooling coffee. "I know I tease you sometimes. I didn't realize it bothered you so much." "It's not teasing when it consistently undermines my confidence and decisions, Melissa. It's criticism. Sometimes it's outright contempt." The word contempt hits me like a slap. "That's not fair. I don't—" "You laughed at me," he interrupts, his voice still calm but firm. "You laughed when I said I wanted respect. Do you have any idea how that felt?" I think about it, really think about it, and shame washes over me. If he had laughed at one of my deepest desires, how would I have felt? "I'm sorry," I say again, and this time I mean it. "I was wrong." He nods, accepting my apology with a small smile. "Thank you. So will you come home now?" The smile fades. "Not yet. I need more time." Panic flares again. "But I apologized. I understand what I did wrong." One apology doesn't erase years of behavior, Melissa, and I'm not sure you do understand, not fully. "Then help me understand," I plead. He seems to consider this, then nods. "Okay. Do you remember last month when I suggested we go hiking in the Blue Ridge Mountains for our anniversary?" I nod, puzzled by the change in subject. "And do you remember what you said?" I think back, trying to recall. I said it sounded boring, that we should do something more exciting. You said, and I quote, "Only old people and losers go hiking for their anniversary." His voice is steady, not accusatory, but the words make me wince. And then you booked that spa weekend without even discussing it with me further. I thought you'd enjoy the spa, I say weakly. Maybe I would have, if it had been a decision we made together. But you dismissed my idea entirely, made me feel foolish for suggesting it, and then made a unilateral decision. I open my mouth to defend myself, then close it, realizing he's right. That's just one example, he continues. There are dozens more. The time you interrupted me when I was telling a story at Olivia's birthday because you said I was taking too long to get to the point. The time you criticized my presentation style in front of my colleague when he came over for dinner. The way you roll your eyes whenever I talk about my family. Each example lands like a stone, building a wall between us that I never noticed was there. I didn't realize, I say softly. I never meant to make you feel less than. I believe that, he says. I don't think you set out to hurt me, but the effect is the same, whether you intended it or not. I think, how did I not see what I was doing to him? I want to fix this. Tell me how to fix this. He shakes his head. It's not that simple. This isn't something you can fix with a grand gesture or a weekend of being extra nice. It's a fundamental issue in how we relate to each other, how we speak to each other, how we make decisions, how we show respect. So what are you saying? That it's over? My voice cracks on the last word. I'm saying I don't know yet. I need space to figure that out. He reaches across the table and briefly touches my hand. I'll call you in a few days, okay? We can talk more then. And just like that, our meeting is over. I watch him leave the cafe, feeling like I'm watching my life walk out the door with him. 2 weeks later, I'm standing in our building's elevator, heading up to our apartment after work. I haven't seen Nate since our coffee shop meeting, though we've talked on the phone a few times. Brief, stilted conversations that feel like we're talking across a chasm. He's agreed to meet me at the apartment tonight to talk. I've spent hours planning what to say, how to convince him to come home. I've even cleaned the place from top to bottom, bought his favorite beer, and ordered dinner from the Thai restaurant he loves. The elevator doors open, and I step out, keys in hand. As I approach our door, I notice it's slightly ajar. My heart leaps. Nate must already be inside. I push the door open. Nate? In here, his voice calls from the spare room. I drop my bag and keys on the entry table and walk down the hallway. When I reach the spare room, I stop in the doorway, my prepared speech dying on my lips. Nate is kneeling on the floor, surrounded by cardboard boxes. He's carefully wrapping his photography equipment in bubble wrap and placing it in one of the boxes. What are you doing? I ask, though it's obvious. He looks up at me, his expression gentle but resolute. I'm taking my things, Melissa. All of them? I ask, my voice small. He sighs, setting down the camera he was wrapping. Just what I need for now, the rest we can figure out later. I step into the room, kneel beside him on the floor. I thought we were going to talk. We are, he says. I've made a decision, and I wanted to be honest with you about it. My throat tightens. What decision? I've accepted a position with the Environmental Law Division. It's a lateral move, not a promotion, but it's what I want. I nod, trying to show support. That's great, Nate. I'm happy for you. He studies my face, as if checking the sincerity of my words. Thank you. And us? I ask, afraid of the answer. He sets down the bubble wrap and turns to face me fully. I've done a lot of thinking these past 2 weeks, about what I want, what I need, about whether this marriage can give me those things. I hold my breath, waiting. I think we need a formal separation, he says finally. Not just me staying at a friend's place, but an actual separation. Different residences, a clear agreement, time apart to really evaluate what we both want. The words hit me like physical blows. You're leaving me, I whisper. He shakes his head. I'm not divorcing you, not yet, but I need more than just a few weeks away. I need months, maybe longer. Months? I echo, panic rising. Nate, please. I've learned my lesson. I know I was wrong. I'll change. This isn't about punishing you, he says gently. It's about me figuring out who I am outside of this relationship. For too long, I've let your perception of me shape how I see myself. I need to break that pattern. I think, this can't be happening. This isn't the Nate I know, the one who always gives in, who never stands his ground. But as I look at his calm, determined face, I realize that's exactly the problem. I never really knew him because I never bothered to look beyond my own narrow view. "Where will you go?" I ask. "I found an apartment near the office. It's small, but it's enough for now." "When?" "I've signed a 6-month lease. It starts next week." The finality of it, a signed lease, a specific timeline, makes this feel far more real than his overnight bag and temporary stay at Marcus's. "Can I?" I hesitate, then push forward. "Can I visit you there?" He considers this. "Not right away. I think we both need space, but maybe after a month or so, we could meet, see where we're at." I nod, tears finally spilling over. "I didn't mean to hurt you," I say. "I never wanted you to feel unloved." "I know," he says, and I see his eyes are wet too. "And I didn't want to leave. But sometimes we need to choose what's healthy for us, even when it hurts." We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of everything said and unsaid hanging between us. "I should keep packing," he says finally. "Let me help," I offer, reaching for the bubble wrap. Together, we pack his photography equipment, the expensive camera I mocked him for buying, the lenses he carefully researched, the tripod he used only a handful of times before my criticism made him put it all away. As we work, I notice the careful way he handles each piece, the knowledge in his fingers as he disassembles and wraps. I think, did he always know what he was doing with this stuff? Did I never bother to find out? When we finish, he stands, stretching his back. "I should go. I have an early meeting tomorrow." I stand too, suddenly desperate to keep him here just a little longer. What if we go hiking for our anniversary after all? In the Blue Ridge Mountains like you wanted. The smile he gives me is sad. "Our anniversary is months away, Melissa. Let's not make plans we don't know if we can keep." He's right, of course. The fact that I'm grasping at straws shows how little I understand what's happening. At the door, he turns to me one last time. "I'll be back on Saturday to get these boxes. Is that okay?" I nod, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "Take care of yourself," he says, and then he's gone. I close the door behind him and lean against it, sliding down until I'm sitting on the floor. Our apartment, my apartment now, I suppose, feels cavernous and empty without him. I think, what have I done? 3 months later, I'm sitting on a bench in Riverside Park watching joggers and cyclists pass by on the winding paths. It's a beautiful autumn day, the trees a riot of red and gold against a clear blue sky. I check my watch. Nate should be here any minute. We've been meeting once a week for the past month, after 2 months of minimal contact. Coffee shops, parks, once a museum exhibition he wanted to see. Neutral territory, public places. It feels like we're dating again, except with the weight of our history hanging between us. I spot him walking along the path, and my heart does that familiar skip. He's wearing jeans and a sweater I've never seen before, looking relaxed and fit. He started running, he told me last week. 5 miles every morning before work. "Hey," he says, sitting down beside me on the bench. Not too close, but not at the far end either. Progress, maybe. "Hi," I say. "How was your week?" "Good, busy. We filed the injunction against that development company I told you about." I nod, remembering our conversation. "The one trying to build on the protected wetlands?" He looks surprised, then pleased that I remembered. "Yeah, that one." The judge granted a temporary halt while we gather more evidence. "That's great," I say, and mean it. "You must be proud." "I am," he admits. "It feels good to be doing something that matters." I study his face, noting the confidence in his expression, the easy way he talks about his work. There's none of the self-deprecation, none of the hesitation that used to characterize his discussions of his job. "You seem different," I say. He considers this. "I feel different. More myself, I guess." "I like it," I tell him honestly. "You seem happier." He smiles, a real smile that reaches his eyes. I am, in many ways. The unspoken question hangs between us. Is he happier without me? As if reading my mind, he says, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately." My pulse quickens. "Oh." He turns slightly on the bench to face me better. "These past 3 months have been clarifying. I've learned a lot about myself, about what I need in a relationship." I nod, afraid to speak and break whatever spell has him opening up. "I've realized that I let myself become someone I didn't recognize in our marriage," he continues. "I stopped pursuing things I cared about because I was afraid of your ridicule. I stopped voicing my opinions because it was easier than arguing. I became passive, resentful. Each word is a knife, but I force myself to listen. But I also realize that wasn't entirely your fault, he adds. I chose that path. I chose to stay silent, to give in. I gave you power over my self-worth. I abused that power, I say quietly. Even if I didn't realize I was doing it, he nods. Yes, but we both played a part in the dynamic we created. I think about the therapy sessions I've been attending since he left, the painful self-examination, the patterns I've started to recognize in myself. My therapist says I use criticism as a defense mechanism, that I tear others down to feel more secure. That makes sense, he says, and there's no judgment in his voice. Have you figured out why? I shrug, looking out at the river glittering in the distance. Working on it. It goes back to my family, probably. My mom was the same way with my dad. We sit in comfortable silence for a moment. A dog runs past, chasing a frisbee, its owner jogging behind. I've been seeing someone too, Nate says. A therapist, he clarifies quickly when he sees my expression. I nod, relieved. What does yours say? That I need to establish boundaries, that it's okay to advocate for what I need, that respect has to be non-negotiable in any relationship I have. The word relationship catches my attention. Are you thinking about dating? I ask, my stomach twisting at the thought. He hesitates. I've been asked out a couple of times by someone at work. The twisting becomes a full-blown knot. Oh. I said no, he adds quickly. It didn't feel right, not while we're whatever we are. I nod, relief flooding through me. And what are we, Nate? He looks at me directly, his gaze steady. I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out. If you're willing. Hope, dangerous and bright, flares in my chest. What does that mean? It means I'd like to try dating my wife, he says with a small smile. Real dates, not just these check-in meetings. I'd like to see if there's a way forward for us that's healthy for both of us. I reach for his hand, half expecting him to pull away. But he doesn't, allowing our fingers to intertwine. I'd like that too, I say. More than anything. It would have to be different, he warns. I can't go back to how things were. I don't want to go back either, I assure him. I want to go forward, together, if you'll let me try. He squeezes my hand. One step at a time, okay? I nod, feeling a tentative joy unfurl within me. One step at a time. 6 months later, I'm standing on a rocky outcrop in the Blue Ridge Mountains, breathing hard from the climb but exhilarated by the view. The valley spreads out below us, a patchwork of green and gold bathed in late afternoon sunlight. Worth the hike? Nate asks, coming to stand beside me. His cheeks are flushed from exertion, his eyes bright. Absolutely, I say, meaning it. It's beautiful up here. He smiles, taking my hand. Happy anniversary. I lean my head against his shoulder. Happy anniversary. We've been back together, officially, for 3 months now. Nate moved back into the apartment, but we've made changes. The spare room is now his photography studio. We've redecorated, chosen new furniture together, created a space that feels like it belongs to both of us. More importantly, we've been working on ourselves. Separate therapy, couples counseling, long conversations about what we need and want. It hasn't been easy. There have been arguments, setbacks, moments when I've fallen into old patterns and had to catch myself. But standing here with him, looking out at this view he chose for us, I know it's been worth every difficult moment. I have something for you, he says, reaching into his pocket. I thought we agreed no gifts, I say. It's not exactly a gift. He pulls out his hand and opens it, revealing his wedding ring, the one he left behind that night 6 months ago. My breath catches. You kept it? Of course I did, he says. I was hoping I'd wear it again someday. I reach up to touch his face, struck by how different he looks now, confident, at peace with himself. Are you sure? He nods. I'm sure about us. About the work we've done, the changes we've made. I'm sure about you, Melissa. I watch as he slides the ring back onto his finger, where it belongs. I never thought I could lose you, I admit. I took you for granted for so long. And I never thought I could stand up for myself, he says. I guess we've both surprised ourselves. I think about that night, how I laughed when he said he wanted respect, how I never expected him to walk away, to choose himself over our marriage, how that choice, painful as it was, ultimately saved us both. I respect you, Nate, I say, the words simple but profound. I admire who you are, what you stand for. I'm proud to be your wife. His smile is like the sun breaking through clouds. That's all I ever wanted. As we stand together on the mountaintop, his arm around my waist, I realize that what felt like an ending 6 months ago was actually a beginning, a chance to rebuild something stronger, healthier, more equal. A love based on mutual respect. I lean up to kiss him, grateful for second chances and the courage it takes to demand them.